everyone, Chris Wareheim here, your lead karting instructor at Racers360. Welcome to our first track guide. Our first track guide is going to be Daytona International Speedway, where most people kind of start their racing season off in North America, especially on the East Coast. So ride with me as I'm going to break down this track for you guys and pinpoint some of the things you can look at just to give you that little bit of an edge as you enter the first race of the season. All right, guys, let's get into this track guide. Here we are, we're on lap 2 here at Daytona International Speedway of the Sunday final. Like I said, I believe it's 2011. And if I remember correctly, I won on Saturday. I won the first final, and now in the second final, I hadn't been doing as well. So in my mind, I was wanting to be a little bit more aggressive to get back up to the front because this is the first race of the season. I had one win, and I wanted to keep at least get another podium to maybe lead the first race of the year in the points lead. So let's get going here. As we exit the last turn here, remember, as that kind of straightaway starts to arc, we want to bring that kart down to the inside a little bit. We don't have to get all the way down to the grass. Maybe if you're getting a lot of pressure from behind, you want to really take that line away. But you just want to come down enough to where you can't fit a go-kart on the inside of you. That's really the main purpose here. So we'll get going down to the inside. Nice arc. I'm going to bring it back to the outside. And here, I like to brake quite deep. There's two ways to take this corner. I tend to take a little bit narrower line and drive it in really deep into the gas a little bit later. I know I didn't really have pressure from behind here, so I could open up a little bit more of a qualifying line that I would take than a racing line, just so I can maybe get a little bit better run out of the corner here, because Nick's making a pass, or at least attempting a pass on AJ in front of us. So I know they're not going to get as good of a run. So I'm going to open up my hands, take a little bit later apex maybe than I would normally to get a run. Now, as you can see here, I don't track out all the way to the outside. And the reason for that is, even just this little kink to the left, if you make that too tight, or you make that tighter than it should be by tracking all the way out, you're going to lose a little bit of run. And though it maybe is only half a tenth is half a tenth. And that if someone's on your bumper, got a little bit of a run on you, and you tracked out a little bit too much, and you get that run, they can sneak on the inside of you as you enter turn 3. So we'll come through turn 2 here. And look at that. That's a perfect example. As you saw, AJ here didn't track all the way out. Nick, because he was making the pass, had to track all the way out to keep his momentum going, but that opened the door for AJ to get a little bit better run here into turn 3 and be able to outbrake him and make that pass. Down the inside, a little bit late apex there. I got a little over optimistic on that pass. Now right here, I know that Nick isn't really getting the best start. He's already been passed back by AJ. Looks like, I have a little bit of speed here. So as I enter, we'll call it turn 6. As I enter turn 6 here, I'm thinking if he breaks a little bit early here, maybe I can be a little aggressive and outbrake him. Not pull out too early, but when he goes to the brakes, because there is a little bit of a gap in between us, I can maybe attack and be really aggressive on the start here. So let's see what he does. Brakes a little bit early. I decide last minute to really attack the brakes there. Bolt to the inside. And you can see Nick actually realizes I'm there, opens his hands up a little bit to give me that room so that we can race fair and clean. So as you can see here, I open up my hands just for a split second, just to take that line away. As you can actually see, right where my left tire is in front, there's a little bit of a black line there from the rubber that started to build up throughout the weekend. So I was kind of just making sure he didn't have any grip. He was a little bit wider. I could get that drive up to the turn 7 complex, turn 7-8 complex. But I'll right away put the steering input back in to stay on the racing line. Down to this turn 7-8 complex here, using all the curbs, tracking out all the way, entering the last turn here, hard on the brakes. Almost dropped the wheel there. Down to the inside again. Again, very late on the brakes. maybe a little bit too much initial brake pressure. As you can see, I was back steering a lot going into the corner. That was mainly because I was really attacking the entry of the corners, and the chassis that I was on at this time was a little bit stiffer than what most people race today. So I could get away a little bit more with working the kart and even getting a little bit of back steer on the entry of the corners, where with the softer karts today, it's much harder to get away with that. So as we can see here, Mason got passed by AJ. He tracked all the way out, and you see that kart really snapped to the left. He had to make a quick transition. And again, that just, those little mistakes are what allowing me to catch up. Now let's have a look here. Turn 3 again. As you can see, I'm using every bit of the curb here, almost in the grass, but every bit of the curb. I'm trying to shorten that distance around the track. That's going to give me the shortest distance, the fastest line through the corner, the least amount of input. I can actually kind of get away with a little bit earlier turn in there, and that's going to give me a nice solid drive off the corner. Again, I'm just starting to reel Mason in again. Hands are straight as I go to apply the brakes here from that kink into the right-hander. As you can see, I'm waiting until that kart just rotates a little bit before I pick the throttle back up. The reason for that is if you pick up the throttle too soon, you're going to end up like AJ here, a little bit too wide, too early in front of us in the gold helmet. Doesn't get that run off the corner, maybe even drops a wheel at the exit. And that's all just because he's picking up the throttle a little bit too early. As you can see, Mason realizes that, maybe pulls out a little bit too early, has to come back in. But at this point, I know he had to come off the throttle maybe a little bit, or at least that maneuver from the inside to the back to the outside cost him a little bit of time. And I'm thinking, here's another opportunity for me to make an aggressive pass. As you can see there, I sneak it in there. Mason's my teammate. He gave me a little bit of room there. As you can see here, again, I open up my hands just for a split second, but then bring it back on the line. Now my eyes are on AJ. Okay. I'm on the hunt here, deep into the corner. I take a little bit later apex than AJ. I'm focused on that run. As you can see right here, again, he's exiting wider than I prefer, and that's really hurting his exit speed a little bit. So I'm focused on making sure I get that drive off the corner, taking a little bit later apex where he was turning in a little bit earlier, maybe trying to carry a little bit too much entry speed. And again, this just gives me, in my mind, I'm thinking, here's some mistakes. I need to get by this guy as quickly as possible, very late on the brakes. And as you can see here, as we pause the video, I'm really sneaking it in there. Like I said, it was a very aggressive first 3 laps. But luckily, all of us showed respect for each other, and no one really turned down or you know, tried to bully each other. That you know, I was able to get by AJ here, trying to track out on him a little bit, and we'll carry on. So again here, making sure I'm using all the track, making sure I'm getting down to that apex curb, trying to make sure I get underneath that rubber there. If I exit wide, just like AJ did the lap before, I'm not going to get that run, and I could easily be repassed here coming down this short chute. Deep onto the brakes, let it roll. Now the key here is, as you can see, I'm keeping it nice and tight. And the reason for that is I get a little bit better forward drive. It's the shortest distance, but it's also where the most grip is. Like I said in the beginning of the video, you know, this track is really only used once a year, and the rubber takes quite a while to really start to build up. So I'm trying to keep my right side tires, not necessarily on the curb, but I'm trying to get them right next to that curb because I can keep my hands a little bit straighter there, and I will get a better drive off the corner. Now, as we come up to the turn 7-8 complex again, I want you to have a listen to my throttle input. I would actually say that here I was probably a little bit too aggressive on and off the throttle. I didn't manage that weight transfer well enough. It's maybe one of the reasons why I started to fall back at around the halfway point. So pay attention here. If the key for this double left into the right is trying to manage that weight transfer and not make it too aggressive where it's transferring, unloading, transferring, unloading. You just want it to transfer once, set that outside tire, keep the grip around the double left. Maybe you have to make a little bit more of a lift if you overslowed. I mean, if you carried a little bit too much speed, or if you overslowed the entry, you may need to stab a throttle through the middle of the corner. But we're always trying to balance that weight transfer and not do it too aggressively, which is going to unsettle the cart, maybe even make the cart slide a little bit. So let's have just a listen to my throttle input. As you can see there, I gave 2 different stabs of the throttle. That's hurting me. It may only be a half a tenth, but it's a half a tenth. And at this level, at the front, on the national level, half a tenth is going to be the difference between me getting passed on one of the next 2 straightaways or not being passed. So again, use all the curve hair. Very easy to get on the throttle too early for that right-hander. Last turn, driving a little bit too deep. Oh, I made a mistake and dropped the wheel there and didn't get that drive off the corner. Now this lap, I probably had to be a little bit more defensive on the inside. I probably had to take a little bit narrower line. This is back in the open tag days, so we all were running different engines. And actually in the Saturday final that I won, the driver I was racing against was on an engine that had a lot of speed down this front straightaway. But the rest of the track, I kind of had an advantage, or at least was on par with him. So one of the things I actually did was I never opened up for turn 1. I kept it on the inside and made sure there was never enough room to put a cart. I opened up just enough to open up that corner for me so I could get a good exit, but I never opened up enough for another go-kart to go down the inside. And that's one thing you can think about if you make a mistake, or you just need to be a little bit more defensive at the beginning of the race just to hold your position and protect your spot on track. You can run that little bit more defensive line. Just make sure you don't get over anxious and pick up that throttle too early. That's going to push you wide and then set you up for that turn 3 pass that AJ was able to do earlier in the race. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit here. Now remember, all of our coaches will be on standby here for the first race of the season, or if you want to show some of your video from last year at Daytona International Speedway, be sure to send it in. We'll have a look and we'll get you guys set up for the first race of the season. Best of luck. Looking forward to working with you guys. Want to learn personally from me on how you can improve at this track or at any track in the world? You can upload your video or data to me or any of our world-class coaches and receive personalized coaching videos for under $100.